Interesting Facts About the Bible, Part 114. Did you know that nowhere in the Old Testament does it say for women to wear a head covering? God never commands it. Many of you have been asking me to do a video about head coverings. This is a Jewish custom, so then why isn't it mentioned in the Old Testament? Though there are a few places in Scripture that mentions a woman having her hair covered and needing it to remove it, like the Numbers 5 jealousy ritual, and in Isaiah and in the book of Maccabees, it was considered a humiliation for a woman to uncover her hair. It wasn't just the Jewish culture where women covered their hair, it was the Mesopotamian and the Greco-Roman culture where women covered their hair when leaving their house. It actually wasn't specifically a Jewish thing. It's actually written in the Talmud that women should cover their hair, not in Torah or any commandment of God. Rabbis decided that it was shameful for a woman to uncover her hair. It's interesting that we find that it's the Mesopotamian and the Greco-Roman culture where women cover their hair before going out because they share common gods. And if we read what Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 11, it says, "For man is not from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created for the woman's sake, but woman for the man's sake." In verse 10, "For this reason the woman ought to have a symbol of authority on her head because of the angels." Why does Paul say because of the angels? It is a Jewish tradition that the angels were attracted to women's long hair, and so that's why they came down and mated with human women. They found them attractive, especially their long hair. If you don't know the Jewish culture and their history, you can come up with all sorts of explanations. I've heard people say angels are just messengers, so it's talking about pastors, but why would pastors need women's hair to be covered? And nowhere else in Scripture does it call the religious leaders angels. So I've also heard some denominations say if a woman cuts her hair, she cuts the angels out of her hair. But that is also not what that expression means. So the covering over the woman's hair, according to some, protects the woman from the angels, because woman was made from man, for his sake, so that he would not be alone, not for the angel's sake. And that's why she covers her head, especially while prophesying and praying, when angels would turn and look at the woman. So a woman is to cover her head only in synagogue, in services, when she is praying and prophesying. And so many Messianic Jewish women will cover their hair at home in services when they're praying and doing the blessings. And when she covers her hair while doing this, this shows that she belongs to human men, not the heavenly beings, the angels. Then Paul mentions that if a woman doesn't want to cover her hair, let her shave it, because they would shave off all their hair upon marriage and then cover with a kerchief so that men couldn't possibly see the hair. So what Paul is speaking about isn't an extra command or adding to Scripture. He's basically saying Jewish women need to dress like Jewish women, and Jewish men need to dress like Jewish men, because this is a new religion with Greek people coming in, and you needed to be set apart. You needed to look like a Jewish woman, not a Greek woman. What does this mean for today? Well, you'll notice I don't cover my hair for TikTok or anything like that. I do it if I'm going to be praying or prophesying or doing the blessings in services and home. I'll cover my head with a scarf. And it's very customary for Messianic Jewish women to do this. And you'll notice that there's not a lot of agreement amongst the Jews themselves on whether a woman needs to cover her head or not. And this is something that a lot of Orthodox Jews do, but not necessarily all of them. So when you understand what Paul is referencing, what he's talking about, then you'll understand that this isn't something that we're required to do all the time. We are no longer in the Mesopotamian Greco-Roman culture where we need to cover our hair before going out. But if you want to follow what Paul says to do, the tradition is to cover your head while you're praying and prophesying.